1987 was the end of an era for Elvis in Japan, because that was the year when the final new Elvis Presley LP was released on vinyl. And I recently did a video on the 50th anniversary series, which was obviously released in 1985. So what I'm going to do today is go through the very last Elvis LP records released in Japan from 86 to 1987. So picking up the story from where the 50th anniversary video left off. So the first one to show you is Return of the Rocker. This came out in 1986, and this was actually the first Elvis LP in Japan to feature a barcode. And just above the barcode there's actually a letter H and the number 12 and 16. So that H was actually a code for 1986. So it was released December 16, 1986. And these codes they used from the Gold Records Volume 5 album onwards. So I think it's something that they started with CDs actually, and then put them on records as well. And according to the liner notes of this album, the Japanese liner notes, this was the 95th album released in America. Now in Japan it was actually the 128th Elvis LP released in Japan. So somehow they ended up releasing significantly more over here than in America. I'm not sure if that 95 figure is correct, but that's what it says here anyway. So the LP is on the orange label, and I have a German copy of this album which is on a black label, and I think I've got an American one as well which is also on a black label, but you can see that the Japanese stuck with the orange label right until the end. And it came with the usual insert with lyrics on one side and then the Japanese essay and song by song notes on the other side. The CD of that album is fairly easy to find, the original Japanese CD, but it's quite difficult to find it with the obi. It's got a very snazzy green obi. So if you can find a copy of that CD with the green obi for a good price, it's worth picking up because it's pretty hard to find with that obi. So moving on to the next year, 1987, was this album here. Now, if you're familiar with the American discography, you might be thinking, well, this album came out in 1985, but not in Japan. It came out in 1987. Now, ironically, I do actually have a Japanese CD from 1985 of the very same album, but this is actually an American release. So the paper parts were printed in the USA, but the CD itself reads Made in Japan. So at the time there were no CD pressing plants in America, so there were CDs were just being made in Japan and West Germany as it was then known. So ironically the album was made in Japan in 85, but it wasn't released here. So initially it came out on vinyl, 1987, and the date is down here at the bottom. It's got the code 0 for 1987 and then 121, so January the 21st. And you'll notice that by 1987 the obies have got very thin, as though they're trying to save money on paper. Once again, it's on the orange RCA label, and I think this is a really good compilation actually. Never gave it much thought over the years, but so it's bookended by a couple of very famous tracks, Are You Lonesome Tonight and Can't Help Falling in Love. But there's some pretty obscure, really good songs in the middle there, between the two famous songs. Playing for Keeps is one of my favourite ballads from the 50s. Tell Me Why is a song you don't really get on compilations. Give Me the Right, a really good song from the early 60s. Tomorrow is a Long Time, another song that you don't really see on compilations. And Fame and Fortune, one of the best songs from the March 1960 sessions, as far as I'm concerned. And the usual insert here. So that was 1987. And I've got another copy here. This is white label promo version, same cover, same obi. There it is on a white label promo. So again, the CD from 1987 is fairly easy to find, but it doesn't usually turn up with the obi too much. And also in 1987 we had the Complete Sun sessions, and you can see this red sticker up here in the top right corner. That's actually a promo sample sticker, and it goes over onto the inside cover like that. Now unfortunately what they did with promos around this time also was they would sometimes stick a big white sticker on the artwork here. This is also saying it's a sample, and the idea was that you wrote down the name of the person who was receiving this, because well, in principle samples are basically loaned. And this album is quite unusual in that the white label promo, it's a 2 LP set of course, the white label promo is actually easier to find, if you can believe this, than the orange label version. I'm still looking for an orange label version. And the insert is actually of 4 pages this time. So just Japanese text on the inside and then the lyrics. And this album is also unusual because there's actually more information in English than there is in Japanese. So all this this essay in the middle, written by Peter Guralnick, that has been translated into Japanese. But on the left side here you have, in this purple strip here, you have all the technical data about the songs, and comments about where Elvis may have heard the song first. And you don't get any of that on the Japanese insert. And there's also no new Japanese liner notes, which is quite unusual. So I guess they just decided that they were just going to use 4 pages and no more. And they decided to fill the space up with the Peter Guralnick essay. So this one is also easy to find on CD, much more so than the LP. So I think by 1987, by that album, it's clear that the CDs were outselling the LPs. At the top of the OB you can see there it says Elvis 10 years after. And that of course refers to 10 years after Elvis died. It's part of a series commemorating the 10th anniversary of Elvis's death. And the next album I'll show you in a moment also has a similar OB. And there were also some CDs in the same series. And this is another one. This is one of those CDs, the Essential Elvis album. So this was only ever released on CD in Japan. So this is the first one from 1987. And here's another one, the #1 hits. So most of the CDs in this series had this yellow OB. And just to go back to American CDs made in Japan, I also have the same album with American artwork and the CDs made in Japan. So this is from 1987. So they were still making CDs in Japan for America even 2 years later in 1987. And I have another CD from that period. This is the top 10 hits. This is two separate discs. This is the same American artwork, but Japanese discs. This is another one that was released on LP overseas, but not in Japan. So the 10 years after logo and the #1 hits CD, well, that nicely brings us on to the very last LP released in Japan. The last new Elvis LP released in Japan, that was this one here, the #1 hits. Familiar cover. This one did not come with a poster. You can see it's got that 10 years after logo again at the top. And this one is like the Sun Sessions in that the white label promo is much easier to find than the orange label one. So those last 2 albums, the Sun album and the #1 hits, they really didn't sell very well on vinyl over here. So this one again has a 4-page insert, lots of Japanese text on the inside, and in actual fact the liner notes on the LP insert are exactly the same as they are in the CD. So there you go, the last new Elvis Presley album to be released on vinyl was this one in 1987. The end of an era. Perhaps appropriately the LP contains Elvis's biggest hits. Now there would be some reissues in 1992 and one again in 2018, but that was it. Basically the Elvis vinyl story stopped here with this album in Japan in 1987. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Thanks a lot.